We've stated over and over in this debate the cost of this war. In this budget alone, it will be over $113 billion. $113 billion. There are members who have come to this floor trying to whack $1 billion in spending here and there. This is $113 billion. You want to cut out waste, let's get out of Afghanistan. Keep in mind that when you go to the Pentagon, and some of our members have and have gone to Afghanistan, there's an open-ended war going on here. There's no end in sight. I've submitted to the record articles with respect to that. We're going to be there, hear this, we're going to be there through at least 2020. And that's going to cost us at least an extra $1 trillion. Where are we going to get that money? Are we going to cut Social Security for that? Are we going to cut health care and cut funds for education? Are we going to cut more funds for home heating aid? Where are we going to get this money? Are we ready to give up our entire domestic agenda so that we can continue on the path of a war to prop up a corrupt regime whose friends are building villas in Dubai, presumably with money that comes through the United States, that's shipped out in planes out of the Kabul airport? We have to start standing up for America here. I appreciate and respect every member of this Congress who served in the military. We honor them, just as I honor the members of my own family. My father, Frank, who was a World War II veteran. My brother, Frank, who was a Vietnam veteran. My brother, Gary, a Vietnam-era veteran. My sister, Beth Ann, a Army veteran. I come from a family that appreciates service to our country. But how are we serving our troops? By letting them in a situation that is absolutely impossible, where there's greater numbers of them returning home with injuries from IEDs. How are we serving our troops? By telling them we're going to keep extending the period of the war. Who's speaking up truly for our troops here? Is it General Petraeus, who says, well, we'll just keep the war going and maybe we'll send 2,000 troops out of Afghanistan or redirect them by 2014. He doesn't get to make the choice. That choice must be made by the Congress of the United States. It's time that we started to stand up for the Constitution of the United States, which, last I checked, in Article 1, Section 8, provides that Congress has to make the decision whether or not to send our troops into war. We have not the right to give that over to a president, over to a general, or anybody else. This is our prerogative inside this Congress. In 2001, Mr. Speaker, I joined with members of this House in voting for the authorization of military force following the terrorist attacks on 9/11. I don't take a backseat to anyone in standing up to defend this country. But as the United States continues in what is now the longest war in our history, it has become clear that the authorization for military force is being used as a carte blanche for circumventing Congress's role as a co-equal branch of government. I want you to hear this. We're a co-equal branch of government. We're not lapdogs for the president. We're not servants of generals. We are a co-equal branch of government expressing the sovereign will of the American people. It has become clear this administration, just as the last administration, is willing to commit us to an endless war and an endless stream of money. Just for over a year after a commitment of an additional 30,000 troops to Afghanistan and continued assurances of progress. They've been walking that dog down the road for the last 7 years. Progress. My legislation invokes the War Powers Resolution of 1973, and if enacted, would require this president to withdraw U.S. armed forces out of Afghanistan by December 31st, 2001. Now, regardless of your support or opposition to the war in Afghanistan, this debate has been a critical opportunity to evaluate the human and the economic costs as this Congress works to address our country's dire financial straits. Those of us in support of the withdrawal may not agree on a timeline, but an increasing number of us agree it's time to think and rethink our current national security strategy. And we have to know the costs are great. We can't get away from the costs of this war. Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz and Linda Bilmes, his associate, wrote a book about the Iraq War. They projected then a minimum of $3 trillion in costs. I ask unanimous consent to put into the record, Mr. Speaker, a statement that I made over 8 years ago at the beginning of the Iraq War, where I pointed out there was no reason why we should be going to war in Iraq, because there was no proof that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction.
Without objection, so ordered. I
mention that in terms of this debate because we're at the confluence of events, the anniversary of the Iraq War, the confluence of the funding of the war in Afghanistan. We've got to get out of Afghanistan. We've got to get out of Iraq. We've got to start taking care of things here at home.